One such unit, an expeditionary unit of the Chinese National Revolutionary Army, was sent to Burma in India during the Japanese invasion and occupation of Burma in the Southeast Asia of World War II to support the Allied efforts against the Japanese Imperial Army, the Chinese Expeditionary Force. This documentary will showcase the Chinese Expeditionary Force to Burma and one of the thousands of soldiers who distinguished themselves, Zhuoying. First, let us have a general understanding of the basic background of the Chinese Expeditionary Force War in Burma.
In this episode of 70 Seconds, 70 Years, let's focus on the Chinese expedition force that entered Burma when China tried to stop Japan. The Burma-Yunnan Road was a strategic international route for China to transport military needs. At the end of 1941, Japan launched an offensive into Burma, dealing a blow to China's British ally and cutting off the sole surviving international route to China. When Rangoon fell into Japanese hands on March 7, 1942, the Chinese government, at the Britain's request, dispatched the 5th and 6th Armies to cover for the British Army's retreat. Chinese soldiers fought fiercely against Japan, killing more than 5,000 Japanese troops. In April, China's Expeditionary Force fought heroically, led by General Sun Liren. China's 38th Division covered more than 7,000 British troops, allowing them to retreat to India. But on May 8th, Mikina in Burma was taken by the Japanese, cutting off Burma-Yunnan Road and opening the gate for the Japanese to invade India. China's major forces retreated back to Yunnan. But the 22nd and the 28th Divisions encountered great difficulties such as hunger, disease, and getting lost in the Hukuang Valley, a dense jungle near the border.
The war can be reduced to a timeline. The Burma Road was an important transportation line for international supplies to and from China during the War of Resistance. After the outbreak of the Pacific War, China and Britain signed an agreement to jointly protect the Burma Road on December 23, 1941. The CEF entered Burma and the Expeditionary Force totaled over 100,000 men. Burma was one of Japan's major strategic targets in the Pacific War. On January 20, 1942, the Japanese army crossed into Burma through Moscow in West Thailand and took Rangoon on March 8. While the Japanese were advancing northward along separate routes, the CEF arrived to the front just in time. In the battle for the defense of Rangoon from March 8 to 29, the CEF eliminated a total of more than 5,000 enemy troops and provided strong support for the British Burma Army. On April 2, 1942, Chiang Kai-shek decided that Zhuoying would be the commander-in-chief of the Central People's Liberation Army. After a series of resistance, he successfully led the soldiers to withdraw to China. In nearly 6 months, the CEF had marched over 1,500 kilometers while engaging the Japanese army in Burma. Its efforts not only significantly contributed to the global war against fascism, but were also the first time Chinese troops had traveled to another country to fight the Japanese in coordination with other Allied forces.
During the 8-year War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, there was a famous general who made meritorious contributions to the War of Resistance, but he was not well known to the world. Perhaps the fame of this famous general is not as good as Du Yuming, Wang Yaowu, and others. However, his official position during the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression was much higher than that of Du Yuming and others, and he was also on an equal footing with Wei Lihuang. That man is Zhuoying. Zhuoying, a native of Yuyangping village, Baihou Township, Dapu Country, in Guangdong Province, he was born in 1896. He was born in a scholarly family and was familiar with the 4 books and 5 classics from an early age, and loved poetry and songs. Just when everyone thinks that Zhuoying will become a great writer in the future, but no one expected that a student would one day become a generation of famous generals in the future. In 1918, Zhuoying abandoned his pen and went north to apply for the Baoxing Military Academy, probably due to the inconvenient transportation, and he missed the examination time. by chance, he became a student of the 8th term of the Baoding Military Academy, and it was this coincidence that made him acquainted with Chen Chen, who is known as the Small Committee Chairman, who was at the term of his twilight years. It can be said that Chen Chen is a nobleman on Luo Zhuoying's career. I believe that everyone in the world knows that Chen Chen later became a backbone general of the Huangfu clan because of his relationship with Chiang Kai-shek, Jiang Jieshi. To be trusted by Chen Chen, Luo Zhuoying certainly is capable and talented to some sort. If Chen Chen is the person most trusted by Chiang Kai-shek, then Chen Chen's most trusted person is his classmate and right-hand man Luo Zhuoying. As a major general of Chen Chen's civil engineering department, one branch of the Kuomintang, Luo Zhuoying almost followed Chen Chen's footsteps and became a general in the Kuomintang army step by step. Luo graduated from the 8th Artillery Department of the Baoding Army Officer School in 1922. As a senior officer, Luo Zhuoying participated in almost all major operations against Japan, traveled 30,000 miles, and fought 200 battles. This is the praise of Luo Zhuoying by the Kuomintang elder Yu Youren, and it is also the best summary of Luo Zhuoying's performance on the anti-Japanese battlefield. In the following 8 years of the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, Luo Zhuoying successively served as Commander-in-Chief of the 5th Group Army, Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Nanjing Garrison, Commander-in-Chief of the Wuhan Garrison, Commander-in-Chief of the 5th Groups, Commander-in-Chief of the former enemy in the 9th Theater, and Commander of the 1st Route Army of the Chinese Expedition Force. With his firm national will and fearless spirit, Luo Zhuoying made outstanding achievements in the War of Resistance against Japan and was worthy of the prestige of a famous anti-Japanese general. Luo Zhuoying has been through 100 battles, and his heroic performance on the battlefield has long been recorded in history. What is less known is his literary talent and mastery of rhyme. When he was in the midst of the war, he was almost always poetic. After the victory of the war, he published a collection of poems called Hu River Sucking Sea House, Hujiang Xihai Lou Shi Ji, which contains 593 poems with 183 titles, all composed between July 1937 and November 1946, covering the entire war period when Luo Zhuoying was between 42 and 51 years old. Most of the poems, such as 卢沟曲, 罗店, 调宝山行程摇营官兵, and 3 poems on the success of the expeditionary army, have been reproduced and disseminated by war correspondents and have become popular and even internationally famous. It is worth mentioning that not only did he make outstanding military achievements, but during his tenure as chairman of the national government of Guangdong province, Luo Zhuoying was also the greatest contribution of the recovery of the South China, and also his determination of China's sovereignty over the South China Sea. After the total defeat of the Kuomintang on the mainland, Luo Zhuoying also withdrew to Taiwan, and in 1961, he died of diabetes.
After having a general idea of Luo Zhuoying, we are going to first explore the role of Luo Zhuoying in the Burma campaign. Based on this timeline, the video will elaborate on Luo Zhuoying's primary contributions to the Burma campaign. On April 2, 1942, Luo Zhuoying was appointed as the first-line commander of the expeditionary force. It is literally the official beginning of his expedition. And this is a photo of the mandate letter, demonstrating that Jiang Jieshi decentralized the military power to Luo Zhuoying and asked him to become the main person in charge of this campaign. And then, on April 5th, Luo Zhuoying and Jiang Jieshi flew to Laoshu to join Stilwell. They began the strategic deployment of the Pingmana battle. Pingmana is located in central Burma, and is the capital of the present Union of Burma. To some extent, this region is strategically significant. Luo Zhuoying intended to utilize this battle to direct the Japanese to the favorite area of annihilation, where the Chinese forces were easier to defeat them. Luo Zhuoying planned to move back to Pingmana after the new 22nd Division crossed the Zhuoying River. If the Japanese invaded Pingmana, the 96th Division would block them. Simultaneously, the new 22nd Division and 200th Division would surround the two wings of the Japanese army and carry out encircling counterattacks. Indeed, this battle began along the Zhuoying River.
By April 6th, this position would be held by the 96th Division, covered by the battered 200th Division to the northeast of the town, and with the 22nd Division falling back slowly from Yadesha towards the northwest of Pingmana. Once the invaders had engaged the 96th, then the three divisions would launch a coordinated counterattack to destroy the enemy forces. Yet the British retreat completely ruined his plans, forcing him to stop any offensive preparations.
The reason why the British retreat completely ruined Luo Zhuoying's plan is that once the British abandoned Zhuoying and Saswa, the right wing of the Chinese army in the middle of the Pingmana area would be completely exposed to the Japanese. Specifically, in the front line of Zhuoying-Saswa, there was a railway starting from Pingmana that crossed the Bongu Mountains and entered the Iradui Valley. At Zhuoying, this railway turned north to Chakskada, and the 1st British Burmese Division was transferred to the western line through this road. If the Japanese attacked the western front and then captured Zhuoying, they could penetrate the side back of the Chinese expeditionary force through this passage. Therefore, the defense of Zhuoying was immensely crucial. The early withdrawal of the British resulted in the Chinese army being flanked by the Japanese. Subsequently, on April 17th, Luo Zhuoying started the Battle of Yannanyang and finally succeeded.
The Battle of Yannanyang is considered as the most successful battle conducted by General Luo Zhuoying. After the Japanese captured Rangoon in March 1942, the Allies regrouped in central Burma. The newly formed Burma Corps, commanded by Lieutenant General William Slim and consisting of British, Indian, and locally raised Burmese troops, attempted to defend the Irrawaddy River Valley, while the Chinese expeditionary force defended the Sittang River Valley to the east. After the Japanese captured Singapore and the Dutch East Indies, they were able to use divisions released by the success and captured trunks to reinforce their army in Burma and launch attacks into central Burma. It was now essential to deny the oil fields at Yannanyang to the Japanese. Some 100 miles north of Phnom, the Allied lines of defense were planned to be from Mehana east to Tangwangyi and Pingmana to Winsrokri. The Chinese Red Army would defend Pingmana and Winsrokri, but by now Vinegar George Stilwell had poisoned relations between himself and the British to such an extent that both sides thought the other would collapse in front of the Japanese advance. On April 1st, Lieutenant General Slim was visited by Generals Wavell and Alexander. Corps HQ 35 miles north of Phnom, while on the same day, the 17th Indian Divisions around Phnom was finally driven out. General Alexander wanted to keep the unexhausted Chinese on side and insisted that Slim keep the 17th Indian Division in and around Tangwangyi. For the next 2 days, the 1st Burma Division, whose 1st Burma Brigade had suffered heavy casualties, poured back in good orders, covered by tanks of 7th Armored Brigade to the Yingchuan watercourse, where 3 chunks pinned counter and Ying all followed from east to west to join Irrawaddy. The Battle of Yannanyang turned out to be a disaster, found in an area of about 20 square miles from to the north by the Pingyang and the south by the Yingchuan. The Japanese 33rd Division had carved the Magwin Road between Slims into 2 divisions. who were about 15 miles apart. First Burma divisions retreated northward, bombed and machine-gunned by the Japanese Air Force. Slimbroach 7th Armored Brigade again covered withdrawal. What we should have done without the brigade, I do not know. At 13 hours on April 15, 1942, Slim gives the faithful orders for demolition of the vital oil fields and refinery. The oil wells were stopped with cement. Also, the Japanese later were able to tap supplies by redrilling the wells. The Allies watched 1 million gallons of crude oil burning with flames rising 500 feet and all over the area. 写很 a vast, sinister canopy of dense black smoke. To those watching it was both a fantastic and a horrible sight. The leadership of Zhuoying is crucial and indispensable to this battle, and also hammered Japanese forces in Southeast Asia and reinforced Chinese national government control to Yunnan province.
On April 24th, Lord Zhuoying achieved another victory at Tangji town. At dawn on the 24th, the 2nd Division attacked the Japanese in Tangji with the number 599 and the number 600 Regiment as the attack force, and the number 598 Regiment as the reserve. The attack forces, under cover of heavy artillery and armored vehicle artillery, progressed quickly. They quickly occupied the west, south, and north highlands. The number 600 Regiment ultimately broke into the city and defeated the Japanese. Tangji is then liberated. However, the joy of winning didn't last long. Due to the huge gap in military power between the Chinese and Japanese, both Lao Xiu and his people were finally captured by the Japanese army. This led to the jeopardy that the Chinese Expeditionary Force was surrounded by the enemy. In this case, on May 1st, Lord Zhuoying ordered his troops to withdraw from Burma. Admittedly, Lord Zhuoying made a significant contribution to the Burma campaign. Although the battle ended with the Japanese occupation of Burma, Lord Zhuoying never gave up during the war and led the army to 2 successes: the victory of Yannanyang and the victory of Tangji town. During the expedition, he even wrote some poems to express his views on the war. Based on his excellent military talent, keen military intuition, and prudent military deployment, Lord Zhuoying strove to minimize the loss of the Chinese Expeditionary Force. Indeed, he is a great anti-Japanese hero that has been underrated for years.